Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephen Reed. I'm a partner with Cowan, Gunteski and Company. We are a certified public accounting and consulting firm, and we are the major sponsor for this event. Just about every day we hear about a government computer being hacked. We hear about nationwide retailers being hacked, banks being hacked, but it's happening on a daily basis to small and medium-sized businesses. So we thought this topic of cybersecurity would be very informative and helpful to businesses. Our speaker today is John Calai. John is CEO of Trinity Worldwide Technologies. Trinity provides technology guidance, services, cybersecurity to mid-sized businesses throughout New Jersey. The company was recently noted in the NJ Biz Book of Lists for cybersecurity. John has been successfully managing technology service companies for more than 30 years. He's had principal roles in companies including AGS Information Services, Info Technologies, Pinkerton Computer Consultants, and Computer Consultants of America. John has special expertise in managing startups and acquisitions, effecting corporate turnarounds, performing strategic planning, and developing organizations. John graduated from Montclair State University with a BA in mathematics and a minor in computer science. He's also a graduate of CEO Space International, an entrepreneurial and educational organization designed to train the next generation of innovative disruptors. So with that, I'd like to introduce our speaker, John Calai.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. I'm just going to go with the lapel mic then. Great. Well, welcome here. Welcome, everyone. I wanted to say a few things. At the end, if you're interested in getting a free IT security assessment, you can sign up with Susan. She's at the front table out there. We have some time slots available if you're interested. I'm making this available just to the people here. We're doing it for free, but we'll go through and we'll assess your IT environment for your business against some of the metrics that we use to ensure that you're as safe as you can be in the cyber landscape. We're going to have some fun today. I'm going to start by showing you some headlines that have come across over the past year. And I picked these headlines for a reason. If you look at them, the first one talks about ransomware attacking U.S. businesses. The second one talks about AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. Amazon Web Services is a cloud system where companies can host servers and their applications. So we're talking about businesses at your location. We're talking about cloud services that are getting breached. We're talking, the next three have to do with cell phones. You have T-Mobile customers across the board. We have Android, which is the Android platform phones, and then iPhones being hacked. So no one's immune from it. Further, I don't know if you've heard about the Ashley Madison hack. Ashley Madison was a website where people went to hook up. I did this for a reason because it'll come up a little later. But you know, what they did was they hacked in, they got the usernames, and they figured out who you were, and then they would blackmail you. So they'd say, if you don't want your name published, you have to pay us some money. So now they're starting to get a little, more using it as a business income model to get some money out of you. And then there's a porn app that secretly takes photos of you on your phone. It's called Adult Player. You download it and you can watch porn. But it also activates your camera and takes a picture of you, and then they can post that on the internet if you don't pay up. So so it's getting pretty sophisticated out there, and I'll tell you some more stories later. But the next thing I wanted to point out was Mattel's Hello Barbie doll. Now you're saying, well, why do I care about that? Well, they're putting chips in just about everything now. Amazon has the Echo. Barbie has a chip in it which enables a kid to say, well, what's the weather going to be today, Barbie? So it goes out to the internet, gets the weather, and it tells you what the weather is. Same thing with the Amazon Echo. You can ask it questions. It might sit in your living room, or it might, in your kitchen, and as you're doing things, you can say, what's the recipe for that? And it will actually go out to the internet, get you the information. But the one thing you have to realize with all of these things is the mic is continually open, so it can hear everything that's going on in the house, whether it's the kids playing or you talking. And people can actually hack in and hear everything that's going on. So while some of these things are good, there's also, there's two sides to everything. And as they put more and more chips in things, more and more things are going to be vulnerable. And then, now we have drones flying around. You can go on the internet and you can buy a drone, and there's software that you can put in the drone that can actually hack in to and listen as well. So all of these things are happening in the world. It's progressing very quickly as the technology advances. And I just wanted to make you aware of the fact that it's happening everywhere. It's not any one thing that you have to protect yourself against. It's everything. And these are some of the things that we talked about. We call it the attack surface, meaning anything that can be attacked, it's growing, and it's growing exponentially. I mean, if you think about it, your TVs have chips in it now where you can, verbally say, play channel 2 or whatever, and it will actually turn on and play. So that mic is continually open. I know in my house, I just put in a thermostat that's controlled by an app on my phone. So wherever I am, I can control the temperature in my home. So when my son cranks up the air conditioning in the summer, I can secretly go in and I can put it back down where it belongs. So no comments over that's my son in the front. So I just wanted to show you that, everything has a chip in it. More and more things are going that way. It can be good, but just be aware that, there's downsides to it as well. And if you protect yourself, you can prevent yourself from getting listened to or hacked into. And we're going to show you some ways later on how to protect yourself. So what are the current trends? The newest thing is something called fileless malware. And so you say, well, what is that? Well, most of the malware that's been out until now is a file that gets downloaded onto your computer and runs on your computer. So it gets downloaded to your hard drive. Now they have something that doesn't actually download to your hard drive. It gets stored in RAM, and they use commands that will enable it to infect your computer. So it's not a file download, it's just a way that they can get into the RAM, execute some commands, and then install, infect your machine. So that's the newest trend. Email compromising has been around for a while. Basically, they monitor your email so they know when to send a spoof. And I want to tell you a quick story about this. Most people say, well, why are they after me? I have a small business, no one's really looking. Well, I have to tell you a story. Last week I was playing in a golf outing, not news to most people here. I love to play golf, but I was playing with two people from a company that I had just met that day. And while we were playing golf, we played golf. After golf, we sat down to have lunch. And while we were having lunch, I was talking to them about cybersecurity and about their business, and a few minutes later, some time goes by, and one of the guys, the owner of the company, gets a text from his bookkeeper at work, and the text said, "The wire transfer went through, everything's good." And he's reading this, and he looked puzzled, and I said, what's going on? He goes, "I just got a text from my bookkeeper, and it said something about a wire transfer going, that went through." And I said to him, "Call her up right away, it's a scam, and tell her to cancel the wire transfer if it's still possible." So he calls her up, and he tells her this, and he hangs up. And I said to him, "Well, how much did she say it was for?" And he says, "I didn't ask." I said, "Well, it's probably $500 to $1,000 because they just want to pay up without asking too many questions." So I said, "But call her up just to be sure." So he calls her up, and I see his face go white. And he looks at me and he goes, "48. And I go, "48? He goes, "Yeah, $48,000. And I said to him, "Do you have that much in your bank account?" He says, "I have just over that amount." So he asks, and talking with the accounting person, he said to her, why did you do the wire transfer? She said, well, I got an email from you that said, please pay this invoice by wire transfer. I need it done immediately. She replied to the email and said, you know, I really feel uncomfortable about doing it. I really want to talk to you. And he said, I'm really busy right now, just do it. That was the reply. Of course, he didn't write it. Whoever spoofed his email address got the reply. So when he found out it was $48,000, it turned out that his banker was also playing in the outing, his commercial loan officer. He goes, oh, I said, go talk to him, see if there's anything he can do, because while she's working her angle, maybe there's something he can do. Well, what he did was he was able, you know, so the banker told him to, you know, see if they can stop it at the Federal Reserve. So they actually were, I didn't find this out that day, but the next morning I said, how did it turn out? He said they were able to stop it in the nick of time. So they just barely were able to stop it. I mean, that could put a company out of business. It really could. That was all the money he had in his bank account. So, you know, they're very good at social engineering, understanding. I mean, I don't know how many of you are in the mortgage or title agency business, but you know, there's wire transfers going on all the time. And you know, when you go to do a wire transfer, you might get an email say, well, wait, don't do that wire transfer now. At this place, I want you to send it to a different place. That's someone monitoring email, and they want you to wire money directly to them. So be very skeptical and very careful about what you're doing. Another one is traffic tickets, which is kind of interesting because they can monitor the GPS in your phone and know what roads you've been traveling on. So the next day you might get a speeding ticket that says, hey, you were driving down 287 yesterday and we caught you in a speed trap, pay the ticket. Sounds legitimate, you know you were on 287, but it's a scam. So you really have to be careful. You know, just treat everything very skeptically. Make phone calls, talk to people live. Don't take anything you get in email as gospel. And then the third part is ransomware, which is really the wave of the future. And the reason is it's really the new criminal business model. People think it's somebody in their basement, you know, wearing a hoodie and, you know, just going through and, you know, hacking into people, and they're going, why are they after me, you know? It's not. This is a criminal syndicate that's out there, and they're using technology to their advantage, and they're using these nodes that are out there all over the world to hack into people, and they're giving people a cut. So we'll get into more of that in a little while, but there's something else called cover your tracks install, which is kind of interesting. If you're a corporate, doing some corporate espionage, what you do is after you go in and you access all the files you want to access, then you infect them with a ransomware, and that kind of covers your track so that they're more focused on that than they are on stuff you're stealing. So there's, you know, I know nobody in here would do it, but, you know, this is what they're using ransomware for. Okay, so what are the current trends? Well, I just wanted the anatomy of ransomware. People say, well, what is ransomware? Well, ransomware has these 5 attributes, okay? It's taking control of a system or a device. It's preventing the owner from accessing that device. It's alerting the owner of a ransom or a payment. It's accepting direct payment from the owner and then returning access after the payment's been received. So it's malware that gets installed and then has all 5 of these things, and that's what we call ransomware. Okay, so why do they do it? You know, like I said, in the past, if you think about 5 years ago when people were getting viruses or people were stealing information from you, they had the information, but what do they do with it? They have to go out and sell it to a third party. So that made it a little difficult for them to collect money. So recently, over the past year or so, with the advent of ransomware, they're able to sell the stuff right away. They can hold you for ransom and they get direct payment. They don't have to worry about going to a third party and trying to sell the information that they get. So now, you know, so that's the new business model. That's the indirect model now became direct. Now everybody can get into the, you know, to play. And now they even have untraceable currency to collect the money, called Bitcoin. Okay, so now it's an international currency. It's recognized worldwide. They don't have to deal in local currencies. They're getting paid in Bitcoin, and they can use Bitcoin to buy and sell things. So that's another reason why it's proliferating so quickly. And then, there's a low barrier to entry. It's easier for more players to get involved. There's actually exploit kits that you can go on the internet and buy for a few $100s. And so you buy a kit, now you're in business. Now you can go out and start collecting money from people. So this is really, a business model that's growing quickly, and that's why you see so many people right now getting infected with different kinds of viruses and ransomware. And then there's state-sponsored spying. So now you take a third world country that has very little employment. They set up an internet cafe, and no one's going to stop them, because now they're bringing money into the local economy, and they're spending it in the stores and things in the, that are in their neighborhood. So why would they want to stop that? It's bringing commerce and it's bringing money into their local economy. So they're not interested in stopping it. And then there's just the sport notoriety and challenge of doing it. Some people just like to wreak havoc, and that's why they're going to do it. So why not make money at the same time? So how do they make money? Well, they steal resources from your computer, right? They use your computer to relay emails without your knowledge. They use your computer to do DDoS, what we call distributed denial of service attacks, which means that your computer is continually hitting a specific website, and then they set up maybe a few thousand of these things hitting the same website at the same time to bring that website down. And you'll see there, from time to time, you'll see, news items that a certain website went down for a few hours. This is why. For some reason, these hackers are targeting a specific website. They're using everybody's computers that are available to target it and bring that website down, or that system down. They use it for file storage, where they can store files. They use it for domain name service, which is DNS. Domain name service, they use your DNS as part of what they do, and then command and control your systems. So all of these things, so resource theft is a big reason how they make money and how they use it. User data, they do file discovery, keystroke logging for logins and passwords, screenshot captures to get information from you, and file transfers. And this is all done without your knowledge. I mean, this malware could be on your computer doing these things without your knowledge. Next, the pay-for service. CryptoLocker was probably one of the first few ransomwares that became famous for getting on your computer, encrypting your files, and then asking for a ransom in payment. So that was kind of the test that all of these others began modeling themselves after. And it is the new cybercrime business model. This is what they're using to collect money from their victims. They have a pay-for currency, which is Bitcoin, which we already talked about. It's international, and they usually ask for the ransom in either US dollars or Bitcoin because they're the easiest to be able to collect. So right now there's over 50 families of ransomware. There's a website called avien.net, avien.net, and they list all of the different types of ransomware that's out there. At last count, which was last week when I did this, there were more than 50 of them actually. And then there's different families of ransomware, which means that they took that particular program and then they kept adding to it. The latest one, and I'm gonna show you a few. So the first one, Cryptophile, locks the files, demands the ransom. Chimera, which is part of that, posts files on the internet. If you don't pay up, they'll start posting them somewhere where people can see your files. Petya is another one that overwrites the master boot record on your computer, so you can't, it locks you out of your system. Cerber actually uses a computer-generated voice that sounds like this.
Attention, attention, attention. Your documents, photos, databases, and other important files have been encrypted. Your documents, photos, databases, and other important files have been encrypted. Your documents, photos.
So that's basically what it does.
Important files have been encrypted. Your documents, photos,
This is gonna stop.
databases, and other important files have been encrypted.
All right.
Your documents, photos.
I don't know, maybe it's not. It can, okay, so it started over. Okay. I will. Let me go back one second. I just wanted to mention on the previous slide, Jigsaw, which is really the newest variant. I'm going to show pictures of these up on the screen in a minute. I'm just going to show you some screenshots just to kind of show you what things look like when you get these ransomwares. But basically what they're starting to do is they're trying to instill fear in you to get you to pay up more quickly. And they're doing different things to do that. This one shows Billy the Puppet. I don't really know what that is because I never saw the movie Jigsaw. But, and a red digital clock, apparently it has something to do with the movie, but it's supposed to scare you into paying up. That's really the bottom line. They just want their money. And it deletes files every half an hour to entice you to pay sooner. Because if you don't, you'll lose some of your files. Okay, I wanted to show you this. This is what an email attachment looks like. A lot of times you'll get an email with a file that could be a document, a Word document. And what you'll see at the top is this thing that says enable macro if data encoding is incorrect. So you can see it's gibberish in here. But that's done intentionally. What they want you to do is to enable macros right up here. And what that does is when you enable a macro, that's what installs the malware onto your machine. So if you get this, because Microsoft, a long time ago, one of the ways that people used to get viruses spread was Word documents. You sent an infected Word document, and when you opened it, it would automatically run the macros. So what Microsoft did in one of the later releases of Office was they turned them off by default so that this wouldn't happen. And that really took care of the problem. But if you turn them back on, even for one document, you're actually letting it in. So that's what I wanted to say about that. So I wanted to just kind of give you an idea. This is the evolution of one of the ransomwares called DMA Locker. It came out in January. It used a pretty easy encryption. AES 256 isn't that difficult to crack. The key was the same for each file, so it was decryptable. Version 2 came out a month later. It still uses a weak random key, but it was a different key for every file, but it was still weak, okay, in terms of encryption goes. And then in version 3 that came out just a couple of weeks later, there was actually a bug in the version 2 because it made it easily decryptable once you figured out what it was, and there were tools to do that. They fixed it so it was not decryptable. And then not even a few months later, they made the key a lot more difficult because now there's a pair, there's two pair, and if one doesn't match the other, it won't decrypt the files. So even if you could figure out what the code was, if you didn't have the other code, you weren't able to decrypt the file. So they're making it more difficult. This stuff is really evolving very quickly. And so let me just show you, this is what that particular one looks like. It just says, it kind of gives you information. It says all your personal files are locked. It tells you what's happening. It tells you how to pay. It's very informational. So, and again, the idea is they just want their money, and any way they can get it, they're going to do it. And I'm going to show you just a couple more screens. This was the original crypto locker, and this is the same thing. And the one thing you'll notice is there's actually a frequently asked questions page. So they're very customer service oriented. and they're, you know, they'll even decrypt one file for free so that they can prove that they can do it and that you're going to get your files decrypted if you pay. And there's even support. If you're having problems, you click on the button and you'll get tech support to help you go through and buy the Bitcoin so that you can pay their ransom. I mean, it's really is truly a business model. This is not, they're not fooling around with this. They just want their money, and that's the bottom line. You know, I said it has better response than many commercial software companies, and they do, because they're standing by. And actually, one of them, I'm going to show you the screen in a second. I read this morning that they now have open chat sessions where you can actually click and someone will talk you through it live. So they're getting very, very good with this stuff. This is the Locky ransomware, which was the next biggest one after Crypto Wall. This is just, you know, what the screen looks like pretty much. You know, there are different demands, ransom demands by Locky at different times. So sometimes it might be one amount, sometimes it will be another amount. They really do it on your ability to pay, or what they perceive your ability to pay is. And by that I mean, if you're a small business and they realize that you don't have a lot, they may not ask you for as much because they want payment. But if you're a university, which I just read this week, one of the universities got hacked, they demanded $14,000. Some hospitals get hacked, it might be higher. So they're really, they're getting very good at determining what they're going to charge for these things, just based on what files they're finding and what they're seeing when they hack in. Here's another one. This is Locky. It sets your wallpaper to make sure you know what to do next, so it gives you instructions on what you're going to do. That's what the Locky looks like. And this is Chimera, which is another one that came out. And this is what the screen looks like. Now, this is an interesting one, because after you get it, they're trying to invite you for their affiliate program if you want to make your money back by infecting others and collecting the money. So they're actually willing to make you an affiliate to help them hack and spread the virus. I had said before that, you know, there's something called ransomware as a service, just like software as a service, hardware as a service. Now they have ransomware as a service, which is a service where if you're interested, you go to this place, you can buy the kit, and the owner of that will give you an 80% cut, and they'll take 20% of everything you bring in. So the payment goes to them, they give you back 80%, they keep 20% for themselves. But, you know, to somebody who's out of work, it might be an interesting way to make some money, I don't know. And then the Petya is the other one I talked about. Again, you know, there's nothing unique about this except, you know, that's what the screen happens to look like. And then this is the cryptor page that says how many files have been encrypted, how many days you have to pay, and after the price doubles if you don't pay within a certain time. So you know, it's kind of like airline pricing. If you don't pay right away, the longer you wait, the higher the price is to decrypt your files. So that's what they're doing. This is the Jigsaw. This is Billy the puppet, and so that's what the screen looks like. It shows a man, you know, it deletes files. I already said this, you know, increasing number of files every hour to entice you to want to pay. So they're doing anything they can to either get you to pay, scare you into paying, or just instilling fear in you. And here is the Crypto Hitman, which is fairly new, within a month or two. And what this does to entice you to pay is it shows porn over here. So, you know, the files are all encrypted using a .porno suffix to the files, so you know which ones are encrypted and which ones aren't. And they actually show porn on your screen until you pay the ransom. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on out there. Okay, so you know, everybody wishes they were Liam Neeson when you get these things, but you know. you can't always, where do you find these people? They're all over the world. There's nowhere to find them. It's very difficult. So why haven't they stopped it? Like I said, they're initiated overseas in safe havens where they're being protected by local authorities. The local governments are paid off to protect the criminals. Hey, look, if they're getting a cut, they're going to let the people use their internet cafe to spread this stuff. Cybercrime is an enterprise, and maybe and possibly a large employer in economically depressed areas. And it has an international footprint that masks their location and identities. Like I said, they're using technology to its fullest to be able to protect themselves, to be able and make it hard for people to find them. And when they do find them, the controller of that noded network can disassociate themselves from them so they can't trace it back. So they're getting very sophisticated in the technology that they're using. So what can you do to fight back? Okay, this is the good part. You can get rid of any of the old PCs and servers you have running unsupported operating systems, and the reason is because you want security patches. You always want the latest security patches, and you want the security patches as quickly as you can get them, because from the time something's discovered in the wild, meaning there's no antidotes for them yet, antivirus companies, anti-malware companies, and the people like Microsoft and Apple are writing things to help protect you from these things. So you want to update all the operating systems. You want to keep your systems fully patched, which means it could be all your software. You always want the latest releases of everything, especially if you still have Adobe or Flash, because Flash is one way that they can still exploit and get into your machines. Using the most current business-grade antivirus and active anti-malware programs. But you have to realize, having antivirus and anti-malware only stops 30 to 40% of the bad things that are out there. It doesn't stop all of them. That's important to know. Get in, and I'll tell you about that in a second. Get anti-spam and antivirus filters for incoming and outgoing email. It's important to have the filters because a lot of times they'll block the attachments that will infect you. So I have a little video to play. So, yeah, none of us like spam. We've been testing email filters for our clients over the past 3-4 months. We finally came up with a good one with good configurations, but let me tell you, I got tons of spam while we were testing them until we were able to hone down and really learn how to filter out, without filtering out the good emails, and that's the trick. So number 5, getting a next generation firewall with unified threat management, which is called layer security. In other words, you have security at the gateway, getting into your network, and then you have it on the endpoints, which are your PCs and servers. Having layered securities is a best practice, and we recommend it for everyone. Using a filtered DNS service like OpenDNS. And what that does for you is this. I said DNS is domain name service. So it keeps track of where you're going out to the internet. It's kind of like if you had an IP address for a certain website as an example, you can either type in the IP address, which is a string of numbers, or you can type in www.verizon.net. That the translation from what you type in the address bar to the IP address is what a domain name service does. It actually does that translation, so you don't have to type in the string of numbers. You can type in the name of the website as an example. So if you have one that filters and filters well, it won't allow you to go to known websites that contain bad things. And it changes constantly. So what you can do is set yourself up with a filtered one that kind of filters your web surfing to only allow you, or to allow you not to go to the ones that are known bad websites. And that's important because that prevents you from getting like what they call drive-by viruses, which if you go to a website, you may not even know it downloads on your system, but they call it drive-by because you go to a place, it silently installs without your knowledge, you don't have to click on anything, and then when you leave the website, you're infected. It also prevents, like with ransomware, if you get ransomware on your system, it has to go out to the internet to actually get some files to do the encryption. If a good filtered DNS service won't let you go to that website, so it will stop the ransomware from being able to go out to a specific known website where it could happen. I'm not saying it happens in every case, but it betters your chances of getting infected. The other thing is having your systems and network monitored and regularly review network health reports. So we do this with our clients that are on our service where we monitor. And that's important because when I don't know if you remember in the beginning of this, I was talking about the new current trend, fileless malware. Well, this is the only way you can really pick up fileless malware is by monitoring your systems. So it's important to be monitored. It also picks up things like, where people are going to, just general monitoring of your system, so you know if there are unusual number of login attempts to your server. Just a variety of things that we check for and we get alerted for when these things happen. Create and implement effective daily backups. Now, a good backup is one way that you can prevent ransomware from affecting you. If you don't have a large number of machines, let's just say you had 10 machines, and one machine gets infected with malware or ransomware, one thing you have to know is it does propagate throughout the network. It follows whatever you're connected to on your network, and it will start infecting other machines. However, if you have good daily backups of all the machines, if you catch it early enough, you're able to take the backup and overwrite that machine. So you overwrite the files that are encrypted and you get your files back. The problem is if you have a place that has 200 PCs, it's a lot harder to do that. So it only works in very small installations where you have entire image backups of every workstation in the server. Number 9, create a culture of cybersecurity, educate and train. I said before that antiviruses and anti-malware only picks up about 30 to 40%. The other 60% is from what I call the human firewall. It's the person sitting behind the keyboard. If you train your users well and get them to really be very astute at spotting all of these things I talked about, in viruses, spyware, emails that come in with links, if you get them to really understand and be skeptical about it, it greatly improves your chances from getting infected. So that's an important one. And I think, I put it as number 9, but really, I think that's probably number 1. So if you have all of these technology things in place, the other thing you have to do is educate and train your employees. That's really, really important. And then lastly, enforcing strict password policies. It seems pretty comical, but I want to show you 2 slides. This is the next one. This is the Ashley Madison hack. Out of 11.7 million passwords, and this is July of last year, almost a year, here are the top 10 passwords out of everybody who had a login there. Pretty simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 6. It's number 1. But they're all, pretty simple to figure out. I don't know how many people in here have any of these, but if you do, change it. So a year later, or nearly a year later, last beginning of May, I believe this was, May of 2016, which is a month ago. Here are the top 20 from the LinkedIn breach that they just found. Not much different. So you can see, yeah, there's a few little ones here like Princess, probably the name of a dog, people's names, you know, anything like this, get rid of. You don't want it to be anything that is a word that would be in the dictionary. You really want to introduce some characters, special characters, capital letters, numbers. Now, people say, well, how do I remember all these passwords? Because they're really, what you want to do is you want to have a separate password for every site you're on. You're going to say, I cannot remember all that. Well, there are password managers to help, and we'll go through that in a minute. But you know, it's really important that you have a strict password policy for your company, and people change it regularly. So people say, well, how often do you change it, and how large does it have to be? Well, the current thinking is this. If you have an 8-character password, you really need to change it, and it's fairly complex. You really need to change it about once a month or up to once every 3 months. If you have a 12-character password, you're talking about every 3 to 6 months, and if you have a 16-character password, you're probably good for about a year. And you're saying to yourself, well, how do I ever remember a 16-character password? Well, the thing to do is make it a phrase instead of a word. It's a lot easier to remember a phrase, and then you have to introduce the special characters, capital letters, and numbers into the phrase. That's the best way, and don't make any of them an English word. So you can, I mean, the words can be in English, but then when you put the letters, numbers, and special characters, none of them turn out to be English language. So that's really important, and that's how you have to start thinking about passwords as passphrases. It'll be easy to remember, and you can make them longer without having to go crazy. Okay. And so here's a summary. I just wanted to go through quickly. You know, the summary is, you know, hackers are motivated by the new direct business model. Authorities can't stop it. You know, they operate out of safe havens all over the world. They may be a single user at a place that, on a node. And then you have to implement best practices, which are backups, patch management, multi-layer threat protection, real-time monitoring, all of these things. And again, the last but most important is creating a culture of cybersecurity within your own company. And it's just really important that you drill it into the people's heads, because this is really how you're going to stop it, is by creating that culture. So I wanted to give you some places. You know, people say, well, who can I report it to? I can't call the local police. Well, unfortunately, there's no place that's actually going to target and go after it. However, there are 3 places you can report it. The New Jersey Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Center, New Jersey KIC, it's called. You can actually go to their website, New Jersey KIC, and you can sign up for a weekly newsletter if you want. It's good, but you know, it's a little technical, but it does keep you abreast of what's going on. When you do report things to them, though, they receive, listen to this, 1.4 billion incidents a day that they narrow down to about 12 to 24 indicators as to what's going on in the world in cybersecurity. So there's only 12 people in this organization. So they can't do it manually, so they do a lot of this through, you know, electronically. They're able to boil it down and come up with things, and at the end of each week, you can get a newsletter to let you know what trends are going on. So it's a really good organization. I know some people in the organization, and but there's really not much they're going to do in terms of investigation. The FBI has something called IC3, Internet Crime Complaint Center, where you can also lodge a complaint. You know, chances of it getting, I mean, you know, if they're going to steal $500,000, nobody's going to look at it, or, you know, but at least if you report it again, they look at trends, and maybe they can go after, if a lot of people report the same thing, they have a way and a direction that they can go. And lastly, InfraGuard is fairly new. It's a partnership between FBI and the private sector dedicated to sharing information, much like New Jersey KIC does. It's done by industry. So, you know, if you're in the chemical industry or the energy industry, what they do is they're trying to prevent catastrophes in the U.S. by sharing the information amongst people in their vertical market so that they can get better at protecting against threats. It could be, foreign countries trying to hack into us. So what they do is it's an industry groups, it's arranged by vertical market, and they're able to share information as to what everybody's doing to help protect us. Okay, so I always like to give bonuses out in every talk I do. So the first one, people say, well, how do I talked about software that downloads, that records keystrokes. I've been using this software now for about 3 or 4 years. It's called Key Scrambler. It's by QFX Software. You can go to their site, you can download it and install it, and every time you're typing in information in a website, it will scramble the keys. So if there is something recording keystrokes, they'll just get the scrambled keystrokes and won't be able to tell logins and passwords as you type. So that's a pretty good piece of software. In the very beginning, it was a little buggy. Like I would type and then I'd get the scrambled things up on the screen. But they've gotten really a lot better, and I haven't had problems with it now for about 4 to 6 months. So it's really pretty good, and I would recommend that you use it if you're typing in any kind of sensitive information onto your screens. The next one is password managers. And these are important because, again, how do you remember all those passwords? Well, my password manager, and I'm using RoboForm, I've had it for probably 4 years, and I probably have 200 passwords in there. So to kind of give you an idea, because I want them to be different, I want, it's just a great way to keep passwords. And so what you'd have is you'd have a master password that you have to type in when you get to a website, and that can be the 16-character complex one, right? But once you type that in, you're able to go. What happens is when you go to a website, it knows which website you're at. A little thing shows up on your toolbar. You click on it for that website, and it fills in the login and password. It's beautiful. So you're able to keep your logins and passwords stored. It actually stores it in the cloud in an encrypted form that only you have the key to, and that your key is the master key. And so, it's a way, and there's 2 of them. LastPass gets a lot of good press. I had never used it, although I hear people using it all the time, and they love it. I happen to use RoboForm because I love it. Both of them are a yearly fee. I think RoboForm's $20 a year. But the nice part about this too, it's cross-platform. So I could be sitting at my PC, I could be on an iPad, I could be at a public thing, anywhere I want, and I can have access to my logins and passwords. It will also generate passwords for you. So you can put in the specifications. I want it to be 16 characters, I want it to be letters and numbers, and it will automatically generate passwords for all your sites. The problem with that is, for some reason, if you don't have access to the internet and you need to know the password, you don't know it because everyone's different and you're not going to know all 16. But it is I highly recommend it as a way to store passwords and use it. Bonus number 2, never click on a pop-up. I don't care where the pop-up's from, never click on it. There's never a reason. No one can ever give me a good reason on why you need to click on a pop-up when you're surfing or when you're in programs. If you get a pop-up that says, hey, my Adobe needs updating, don't click on the pop-up, close it, go to the Adobe program, go to the update in the program to do the update. That's the safest way to do it, and I would do that with any program you're using that has a pop-up that says, update me. Never click on it. Even if you're sure, never click on it. Just make it a rule never to click on a link, never to click on a pop-up. It's bad practice. Identifying where a link goes. A lot of times what you can do, like if you get an email and you think it's from the person but you're not sure, and it says, click on this link. If you hover your mouse over the link that they want you to click on, it will actually show you where it's going. And that string of characters might look, it could be very long, a lot of times it is, but the thing to note is it might say www.ups.com, but it's not the first one that counts, it's the last one that counts. So while it may look good as you hover over, it's the last one in the string is where it's going. So just be sure that you can see the whole thing before you click on it, if you do. And I'd rather you not click on a link, but just know that that's how you can tell. Bonus number 4, and I think this is the last one. Identifying what ransomware you have. There's actually a link you can go to, and I'll give you these bonuses. Anyone who attends today, I'll email them out so you have it, and I'll also email out kind of a summary of the talk. It won't be every slide, but it'll be a summary. This will tell you what ransomware you have, possibly if there's an antidote, and it will. You can upload an encrypted file, and it will tell you about what you have. So what good is that? Well, it may or may not be able to decrypt it. At least you'll know what it is, and if you have an IT team within, they'll know what to look for and where to go to find out what you do have. And it will give them all the attributes, and they'll know pretty much whether or not you have to pay the ransom or whether there's a way you can get your files back without doing it. And this lists 92 different ransomware programs. I said before that there were 52 families, but there's 92 that they have listed. That doesn't mean they have all of them, but they have most of them there. And I believe that's it. So I'm 5 minutes ahead. So I'd like, I'm open for questions. If anybody has any questions, we do have a mic, a wireless mic somewhere that he's got it. So raise your hand, he'll give you the mic, and you can ask the question so everybody can hear. Go ahead, pick somebody.
So, John, can they hack into that site where you have saved all your passwords? Have those sites ever been hacked?
It's funny you ask. LastPass was hacked years ago when they first started. They haven't been hacked since, and neither has RoboForm, to my knowledge, has never been hacked. So that's why when I picked the program I was using, I didn't pick LastPass. I mean, it was new software, and so now they're a lot more conscious. So it should be safe. Again, it depends a lot on your master password. You want to make it long and complex. And again, you have the only key. And to decrypt a 16-character password takes centuries. 12-character password, months, and a 8-character a day. And you might think that it's not a lot, but it really can be cracked that much. I mean, you have to realize that as things progress, so is the technology for decrypting passwords. It's progressing very quickly as well. So you want to make it long. Next.
Thank you, John. That was a great presentation.
Thanks.
Wanted to ask a question about checking accounts that people can get into. Once that's happened, which it just recently happened to me, and you have your passwords in there and you're doing online banking, do you now just feel okay about changing the password and keeping your whole account? And what about money being transferred in there and things of that nature?
Yeah, it depends on how they've gotten into your system. I mean, did they do it with a username and password? And were you using banking software, or were you going to the banking site?
I was going to the online banking and putting my own password in there.
Yeah, did you get there from a link that was provided, or did you type in the...
I typed it in.
Yeah. I mean, I would work with your bank on that one. It's hard to know how they were able to get it. I recommend if you're going to do banking on your phone or on a tablet, use the downloadable app for that bank that you get from the Apple Store or the Google Play or wherever you're getting it from. Don't go other places to get it. Always stick within those approved places to get apps, because if you start going out to the web and finding apps at different places, you don't know what you're going to end up with. And that's where the bad people go, and they post these apps for you to download and install. You really want to stick. I mean, they do, Apple is very thorough at checking what the apps get posted on their web, as do Android. They're pretty good at checking before they post.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I wish I could help you more. Go ahead, Mike.
I can be loud.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you comment on using things like Dropbox, Google
Sure.
Drive, or Box file backup?
Yeah, again, you know, they're password protected if you have a complex password. You know, and it depends if you have the free version or the business version. I recommend the business version in every case because you have to realize when you have Dropbox, you have, you know, you have it locally stored on your PC. You have a copy up in the cloud of what you have there, right? So in most business versions of this software, it's encrypted on your PC. It's encrypted in the cloud, and in transit, meaning going from here to there, is encrypted. The free versions, maybe not. Depends on what you're using. So you always want to make sure, again, long passwords, very complex, and you should be okay. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, some of them have a feature where you can roll back to a previous version.
Yep.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah, it is. Sometimes you can do that with encrypted files, sometimes you can't. It depends on how long. Again, the key is catching these things quickly, because the quicker you catch them, the more chance you have of recovering without too much of a problem. And that not only goes for ransomware, that goes for viruses and spyware as well. The longer that it sits, the harder it is. And let's just say we've had people call us up, well, this has been going on for a week now. Well, why did you wait for a week to call us? Because now you have a week's worth of backups that are now encrypted because you're backing up encrypted files and you're overwriting what was there. And it just becomes a nightmare. And you know, you might be in a case where you have to pay the ransom. And you know, you really want to prevent that as much as you can. So as quick is the key, and you know, you really you want to use those long passwords and buy the business grade of any of those services that you want to use.
You're familiar with Dashlane?
Yes.
And what are your thoughts on that compared to the other two?
You know, I'm not that familiar. I've never tested it. I've never used it, so I don't know. I mean, it gets some good reviews, so
Because I've been
you know.
using that, and I just didn't know. I'm very happy with it.
Yep.
But I didn't know in comparison to the ones that you suggested whether that was.
Yeah. Well, the two here, the one that I was recommending before, they usually get ranked in the top 2 or 3. So, you know, Dashlane also gets some good press. The thing I would do is just, you know, even Google it and say, you know, Dashlane breaches. See where it is. You know, unfortunately, this landscape gets changed every day. You know, and you'll see, even with antivirus programs, you know, one will be at the top, next month it's not at the top. The next, something else will be. And they switch positions. And the only reason for that is, you know, it's how quickly they can get something out there that will protect you against whatever the newest thing is. So it depends on when they do the test. You know, is one already written and the other one isn't? And so they fluctuate. But you always want one in the top 3 or top 5 because you know that they're on top of it. But for that particular month, they might not be number 1. So you always want to pick the ones that are up there. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Hi, John. Thank you. It was a great presentation. But for a small business owner like myself,
Yep.
all this is much too complicated. I can't spend my whole life going to all these different sites, downloading it and stuff, remember the password, and changing it constantly. So in your business, I know you deal mostly with larger companies. So for
Yes.
somebody who has under 10 PCs, a
Right.
couple of PCs, you know, a small business owner, what would you recommend? A couple of times a year? Is it something that your company would do a couple of times a year? Go into the PCs, fix them all, check them all, install the software?
Yeah, you know,
and do that? Is
to
that
tell you the
something
truth, we did have a couple of QuickBooks Pro advisors that have, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 PCs within their company, but they had important information. And they paid us to monitor and maintain their systems monthly. It's not very much money. It's very reasonable, actually. And it's for peace of mind, it's good because we want to make sure that backups are set up properly. We want to make sure that you have a good, you know, firewall in place. We want to make sure you never click on a pop-up because, again, it's the users that let in most of this stuff. So we want, you know, technology-wise, you to be set up with the best antivirus, active anti-malware. And by active, I mean it's constantly scanning. Malwarebytes has a pay-for version and a free version. The free version basically tells you after you get infected. The pay-for version scans it so you don't get infected. So, so you want to, again, you've got to pay, and it's not a lot of money. It's like $25 a year, but it's well worth it. Because if you ever get infected, think about the lost productivity, and it's just impossible especially when you're a small company, because your business is your data that's on your PC. And we try to protect everyone from that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You say don't ever click a pop-up. and
Right.
We have AVG antivirus on our computers. and
Sure.
it pops up and says, update me.
Don't
Sorry.
do it that way. All you have to do is in the system tray, there's a little AVG icon. You click on it, you open it, and you hit update. Very safe. Ignore the pop-up. Go ahead.
So what would be your best advice for, because nowadays everybody, we have staff that also work from home on their own personal PCs.
Yep.
And they're accessing company files. What would be the best policy?
Sure. One thing I didn't talk about that is very critical. It's called two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication. Whenever anybody's dialing in, it's important to have what we call two-factor authentication. You may have it already with your bank or another, maybe your financial institution. A lot of them have it where you type in your login and password. They send you a text with a code. You put the code in. That's called multi-factor. And the reason is because you have your phone, right? You're getting texted. If somebody else figures out your login and password, they're still not getting in because it's texting you. It's not texting them. So two-factor authentication is very good, and I recommend it. Any sites that you go to that offer it, do it. It's the safest thing you can do. And if you have people dialing in like that, there is software out there that we can install for you that will create that multi-factor authentication so that if you're just logging into your server remotely, again, it'll ring back their phone or, that they have to get in. They have to do something.
If you have one of those situations that people wire out money to Russia or wherever it is, would the FBI get involved? Who's responsible at that point? The person who initiated the wire?
When you say responsible, what do you mean? Are you going to fire? No, I know. There's once it's wired, it's wired.
Right.
That's why if this guy last week didn't catch it in time, it was gone. And they aren't going to be able to trace it. Because it not only goes to one place, it goes to a few places before it settles, and you can't trace this stuff. Because as soon as it's one bank account, it's going to be drained, it's going somewhere else, it's going to be drained, it's going somewhere else.
Right.
No one's going to do that, even for $50,000.
Right, so basically the company who initiated that wire
They're out the money.
would be held responsible.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know, I know we have an insurance person, maybe two in the room, they do sell cyber liability. Yeah, so I don't know if that protects you. You have to look at the terms of the policy, but I'd recommend cyber liability policy for businesses that do a lot of wire transfers, do things to help protect your business, because it's a real threat. And if you think about the lost productivities, it could really put you out of business. It really can. So I would seriously consider that.
Just one more question.
Yep.
On Windows 10, what is the best backup for on your wireless for backing up every day, daily? Is there one program that's recommended over another backup?
You mean like a cloud backup? Is that what you mean?
Right. Sometimes it's been external. In the past,
Yeah.
people have had external.
Well, external backups is good, and I recommend external backups whether or not you back up to the cloud. Because if you have an external drive or a NAS drive or something on site, that's always key, especially for recovering from when you have a large installation. It's key for recovering the data. If you're a single user or 2 or 3 users, you can back up to a cloud. There are some good ones out there. Just use one that has a pay-for service. That it's being encrypted in transit as well as what they call at rest, meaning once it gets there, it's encrypted and only you have the password. You can easily research them. There's a lot of good ones out there. So that's what I would do. Yep.
John, do you have any worry about the cloud backup companies and their policies actually being a negative thing in the way that they affect end users. I've been reading a lot of things about Apple Music, iCloud backup, forcing people to use cloud backup of their music files where they actually pull them off of your computer permanently, store them in the cloud only with a replacement file, and then musicians who have stored their own music get their own music replaced with the wrong file, but they've have their years worth of their own music deleted forever, and it's unreplaceable because they signed up for it when they signed up for the cloud backup through Apple, of all people, let alone a smaller company who you may not even feel as trustworthy.
So what was your question?
Do you have any worry? Like I would want my firm to move to cloud backup until I read things like that and know that they're backing up my files, but that they may not be backing them up correctly. And now the company I hired to protect me from a type of cybercrime is actually committing it against me through the backup process.
Sure. You know, it's a good question, and what I would recommend, you know, a lot of these backup companies have terms and conditions that nobody reads. You really have to go through them and understand what they're doing. As an example, Google has the right to go through your files and collect data. You know, so you have to understand the terms and conditions, especially for business data. You don't want to put it in a place that is going to, you know, be scouring your files to get information so they can market to you better. So, you know, again, read the terms and conditions. I know it's a pain in the neck, but have somebody go through them just to be sure that they're, you know, that you're going to be safe and you're getting what you expect to get when you do the backup. That's the best advice I can give you. Yeah. Because, you know, again, we have clients that are medical that back up. You know, they're subject to HIPAA compliance regulations. So we have to make sure that when we do recommend one, that it's a HIPAA compliant facility.
Are there backup services that offer that as advertised there?
They do. They'll let you know if they're HIPAA compliant when you do it, because they want the business, right? So they're going to let people know that. Same thing for financial services. They're going to let you know if they meet the government regulations for that particular industry. So, yes. Okay. Oh, one more, and then we'll quit.
To go on to, like, if you're going to go on a regular basis, rather, regardless of what it is, the last, do you want me to save your password? Is that a good practice to say yes, let them save their password?
No.
No.
When you log into a site and they say, do you want us to say it? Don't. Okay. I never do. I'm sorry. You didn't meet the question. Okay. Someone, wait, use the mic. Go ahead.
There are certain sites you go on, like I go on Social Security site, you know, to establish your whatever, and I'll say, do you want me to save the password? So this way you can just go on.
Right.
Is that a good practice or not? Even at
it's really convenient. I would love to be able to do that, but I would never do that ever.
Never do that. Okay, never let a site save your password.
Yes, because you have to realize that the passwords are stored locally on your hard drive. And if somebody cracks into your computer, they can get that file and know all your logins and passwords. Again, Susan is also taking names if anyone wants to sign up, again, today for an IT security assessment. We'll come in, we'll spend some time, we'll look at your setup, we'll make suggestions for you to help remediate, to get up to speed and do a good job at blocking these things from happening to you and your business, okay?
I'm Stephen Reed. I'm a partner with Cowan, Gunteski and Company. We are proud sponsors of today's cybersecurity event. I want to thank each and every one of you for attending today. Now it's up to you to take this information back to your businesses and implement the great ideas and concepts that you heard here today. So thank you very much.